बहुत बोर लग रहा है।
Take a date, not bites.
नो एडेड शुगर, प्रिजर्वेटिव के बिना डेट्स, बादाम, पिस्ता, काजू और शहद से तैयार किया गया लायन डेट्स नट बाइट्स।
Lion date, not bites.
मेरे केस बैकलॉग को क्लियर करने के लिए एक सिस्टम बनाओ।
Why has Iran stopped the traffic in the Strait of Hormuz?
They want to attack us, they want to target us, so we have to defend ourselves.
They are punishing countries outside the region as well, like India, and like countries in South and East Asia.
The big problem that they've created now is the closure of the strait.
Ultimately, the main purpose of this exercise is, frankly, to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
Whenever they've got involved in a war on behalf of somebody else, there isn't been just an altruistic purpose.
One year after Operation Sindoor, India's military doctrine stands transformed. The operation was swift, precise and mission-focused. India struck terror infrastructure and strategic targets without crossing the line of control or the international boundary. Objectives were defined before the strikes began and achieved before escalation spiraled. Operation Sindoor showcased a new model of warfare powered by indigenous weapons, coordinated planning and strategic restraint. The message was clear: India will retaliate with precision and control. The contrasts with Operation Epic Fury is striking. While Sindoor had clarity and closure, Epic Fury continues without a defined endgame, raising questions over cost, duration and strategic outcomes, leading to something which no one knows when it will end. Operation Sindoor highlighted India's indigenous defense strength. Akash, BrahMos, Pinaka systems formed the core of the strike capability, while Nagastra and SkyStriker drones targeted high-value enemy assets. DRDO electronic warfare system disrupted radar communication networks, weakening enemy coordination. The operation proved India's self-reliance in defense technology, which is now battlefield ready.
He planned, executed and concluded a complex multi-domain operation in a remarkably compressed time frame. The operation also showcased indigenous capability. A significant percentage of the weapon systems, munitions, rockets and missiles, sensors and electronic warfare suits that were employed were developed and produced in India. The BrahMos, Akash, advanced surveillance and targeting systems, along with homegrown ammunition and spares, all played a decisive role. Indigenous equipment meant not only just self-reliance, but the flexibility to tailor these to our operational requirements, sustain and maintain supply chains, and to respond with speed and confidence.
Operation Sindoor and Operation Epic Fury showcased two very different approaches to warfare. One was swift, precise and objective-driven. The other continues to face questions over duration, costs and outcomes. Operation Sindoor began with clear objectives. India targeted terror infrastructure and strategic support systems with calibrated strikes aimed at restoring deterrence without escalation. Epic Fury, meanwhile, continues without evolving objectives and no clear definition of victory. Sindoor also had a defined exit strategy. The operation concluded once targets were achieved, preventing a wider conflict. Epic Fury still has no visible roadmap for closure. The difference in duration is equally striking. Op Sindoor lasted 88 hours with rapid execution and decisive results. Epic Fury has stretched into a prolonged conflict with rising fatigue and uncertainty. On cost, India achieved its objective with limited damage and zero reported loss of assets. Epic Fury has seen billions of dollars worth military assets destroyed and growing strategic pressure. Most importantly, Sindoor reinforced deterrence through precision and clarity. Fury continues to face debate over its long-term effectiveness and outcome.
In an era of prolonged conflicts around the world, we struck hard, achieved clearly defined objectives, and then decided to cease hostilities when the Pakistanis were compelled to negotiate and requested us to stop. The objectives were achieved through a calibrated shot and sharp shock that altered the enemy's risk appetite and disrupted his command and control, without locking India into a long-drawn war or conflict, the ill effects of which we are seeing in ongoing conflicts around the world.
Operation Sindoor reaffirmed the primacy of air power, and when I say air power, it means everything that is in the air and not only Air Force, as the first responder and the dimension of choice for any nation. Second, it reasserted the salience of jointness and a whole-of-nation approach. It vindicated Indian Air Force's focus on precision targeting and net-centric warfare, with ICCS emerging as a clear enabler. Next, we are also able to see through our adversary. We now have first-hand confirmation of their capabilities, capacities, and tactics they intended to hide. So I'm sure there are a worried lot across there. A crucial lesson: nations forced into conflict must always have conflict termination criteria and strategy in sight. Otherwise, very soon you can go astray and do not realize how to terminate that conflict.
So 1 year later, Operation Sindoor remains a defining example of modern Indian military doctrine. It was swift without being reckless, powerful without uncontrolled escalation, and precise without prolonged conflict. India demonstrated that military strength is not about the scale of firepower, but about clarity of purpose, coordination, and decisive execution. Indigenous systems proved their battlefield capability, while the armed forces showed how strategic restraint and hard power can work together. As Operation Epic Fury continues to raise questions over the duration, cost, and end goals, Op Sindoor stands out as a mission that knew exactly why it was launched, how it would be executed, and when it would end. On this issue, I am joined by Lieutenant General Arun Sani, Major General Sudhakarji, and Air Commodore Dr. Ashwinder Singh Behal. Thank you all of you for joining me. Let me straight away go to General Sani. Sir, I know those operations are very different, Operation Sindoor from Operation Epic Fury, but there is one thing which makes them very, very comparable. Op Sindoor had defined objective, goals, and exit. This Epic Fury, I don't know when it started, where it will go, and what will it turn into.
Yeah, I think good evening, Kartikeya. Always a pleasure to be on your show, and of course to have colleagues whom I keep meeting here on the screen along with when I come onto your show. Let me put it in two manners. I think the kind of adjectives you've used about the difference between Epic Fury and Op Sindoor actually covers most of it. But may I just put it in two manners? As far as India was concerned, this was retribution for acts that they were doing. We wanted to create a level of deterrence or an instrument which will deter them. And as you see it, the subsequent action that followed of abrogating or holding in abeyance the IWT, the Indus Water Treaty, and saying that this is a continuation of the operation. It was Op Sindoor, did not terminate on the 9th, 10th, but remains in force. And it can be, if we have the right to utilize our resources to hit the terror infrastructure if there are acts of terror within the sovereign boundaries of India. So I think that was the first issue. It was something which was between two nations where they had crossed the red line and India reacted to it. I think when I look at the US engagement, I think we leave aside the issues on planning, but I would say in the larger picture, they sort of bumbled into this particular thing, forced in some manner by the large community that supports the Israelis' action in Gaza and continuation of this act of war against Iran. So I think it was an operation that bumbled along, did not have planning. And I think we don't have to really look too far. We saw the moving out of the chief of land forces as far as the US was concerned. He was changed because of, as I say, discrepancies in manner of talking between him and Hegseth and what the outcomes and the methodology of conduct of this war was.
There's also another thing. I don't know, maybe you better understand the American system. You know, this is the question I'm going to now take to other analysts, General Sudhakarji. This constant political interference in the operations by the Trump administration. Though Sindoor was shorter, but our political establishment left it to the generals. Sudhakarji.
Yeah, good evening, Kartikeya. Thank you for inviting me for your show, and my very deep regards to distinguished and esteemed, very senior General Army Commander, sir. Lots to learn from you, every interaction we have through the channels. And my colleague, Air Commodore Bahal. Yes, you are absolutely right, spot on. While the domain experts deserve to have the last say on the specialized subjects they are supposed to lead and direct or advise, it was done to the contrary in case of USA. I do agree with you. But what made Donald Trump resort to these kind of decisions? Was there any compelling factors which could have drove him to take recourse to these kind of course of action? Or it was something whimsical simply to distract the attention of the domestic constituency of America? So here I actually, on one hand, I do endorse what you are saying. He has taken very arbitrary decisions. He has knocked off, rather, he has sacked many 4-star and very senior generals, including the naval secretary. Good 9 or 10 of them. I think the latest figure is 12 of them who have been purged, if we use the Chinese expression. But be that as it may, what is it that Donald Trump is trying to achieve? Is it contributing anyway to make America great again? That is the moot question which we need to answer. If it is yes, then what is the hidden agenda? Why is he holding it back from his Congress members and the Senate members? We are also witness to very scathing and lethal attacks, I mean verbal attacks, by the representatives of Congress from different provinces, and in the Senate briefing and questioning to Pete Hegseth. So the responses from the Secretary of War are nowhere close to being satisfactory. So therefore, actually, what is it? One is actually in a quandary to find a suitable response or answer to respond to a question which you have framed. But more than that, is that what is the bigger objective, if at all USA has? Do they anyway contribute towards making America great again? How does it differ from Operation Sindoor? Here I would say that the casus belli is the true cause. I'm not talking about the cause, the causal loop, the cause and effect. The casus belli of any conflict has to be well established. While Operation Sindoor had a casus belli, the Pahalgam carnage, where 26 innocent Indian citizens, by segregating them by as per the religion, they were actually killed in broad daylight. And in case of America, I don't think 7th October 2023 could have been taken as a casus belli when one offensive had already gone in for 12 days in 2023. Yes. The second one also started with fits and fury, fits and starts.
Yes.
With 4 days, 6 days, 7 days, 14 days, 1 month. Now it is past 2 months. What is it that he's looking for? Sir, these are the questions which
I think that's an important casus belli. Yes. Air Commodore, Dr. Ashwinder Singh Bahal, your opening comments, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Jai Hind, and I want to acknowledge the presence of General Sahani and General Sudhakar, two eminent theorists as well as analysts. Now, I would like to first say that continuing from where General Sudhakar had left off, that there is always a trigger which leads to the military operations. For example, in World War I, there was Archduke Ferdinand's assassination. World War II was German invasion of Poland across 1,600 kilometers front line. Similarly, in this case, Pahalgam was the incident because of which was the trigger, and hence we had very clear aims and objectives. We knew we have to target 9 out of the 21 terror infrastructure elements because they had they had terror elements still positioned over there. So this was a clear aim and objective, that we would not be any escalatory. It was non-escalatory. We wanted to terminate at the time of hitting the terror objectives itself, but it is Pakistan who hit us with 600 plus drones over 2 days that we escalated and dominated the escalation spectrum. So we come to the second factor, whereas in the case of Trump, since there was no trigger And since this trigger existed from many decades, including the 2015 JCPOA signing or 2018 Trump walking off, and hence he doesn't have any other leeway left today when he's finding himself in a quagmire, whether he can even get a deal which was equal to that of the JCPOA in 2018. Now we come to the important aspect of when we have a clear aims and objectives and we are non-escalatory, we also did not have any collateral damage. Now, remember the incident where girls' schools was targeted and 165 girl students were killed, and 2,000 to 7,000 Iranians have died in this war, thereby clearly indicating that there was no clear strategy of not hitting the critical infrastructure or civilian targets or ensuring minimum collateral damage. The next issue that comes up is dominating the escalation matrix. India did dominate at every stage after we were hit by the drones and also these short-range ballistic missiles such as Fatah 2 and Abdali. We thereafter went and hit 10 to 11 of their air bases. We hit 4 to 6 radars, 2 communication centers as well as command and control centers. And also we hit at key elements, institutions, which are the aircraft of their air power, both on air and ground, including achieving a world record of 314 kilometers of hitting a high-value asset by the S-400 system. But most important difference is that whilst there were no clear end state or clear honorable exit for Trump, we had a clear strategy that when we created a coercive punishment, they would be bowing down to us. And what happened in 88 hours, and they came and asked our DGMO to stop the operations. But the huge economic damage which Iran has suffered, which the whole world has suffered, which Europe has suffered, which America itself has suffered, when we look at $51 billion plus losses or damages or the cost of war that has taken place, likely to go up to $80 billion. And when we are looking at America itself, where the cost of fuel is $4.5 per gallon, we are looking at a place where Trump's popularity has come down to 35 to 36%, whereas Indian Prime Minister's popularity has gone up significantly in this war. So strategically, India won the war whilst restraining ourselves within the wisdom and restraint manners. Just last one sentence on this. Whereas America lost its image of an invincible nation, and today every nation in the world, including the European countries, know that if they push the right buttons in America, they can stand up to America, and that's a great
the reason why,
difference
sir, I organized this specific Operation Sindoor versus Operation Epic Fury is because Trump has been claiming has claimed billion times that he stopped the war. I mean to say, look at the joke. You can't even get out of your own war. Your epic fury has turned into something called enduring freedom, and Marco Rubio gets, publicly snubbed. And then you say that, you interfered during Operation Sindoor, which was handled by our generals, our forge. So I thought, let's compare it. Let's compare our, our military action with theirs. We didn't end up with a $1 billion nose, They destroyed a $1 billion radar system in UAE. We didn't have any casualty like that. I mean to say, Operation Sindoor is a matter of immense pride. Should be a matter of immense pride for every Indian, General Sani.
Yeah, I think what you've said is very correct. Let me just put it like this: that Operation Sindoor, after the current conflicts that have happened in Europe and West Asia, has brought out one thing which is really the lesson for most military operational and strategic leadership. That a non-contact phase of war is going to now be part and parcel of your functioning, whether it subsequently converts into a conventional conflict or not. Yes. But it will actually be an instrument which will have to be catered for, and you'll have to prepare for it. So I think in a manner, it's been a great lesson. The second thing which it did is of how to define your objectives, and in spite of the opportunity that we got on the 10th when they violated the 5 o'clock ceasefire line, we restrained ourselves from relaunching because they had violated the agreement that had arrived at. So I think the clarity, the synergy between the military and the political leadership, the decisiveness in the decision making, and I think much against the wills of a lot of us who were who have been talking on the thing, we felt that we needed to give them a slap after what they did.
Absolutely.
But I think
little more. That was the feeling. Little more. 2 more days.
Yeah, 2 more. So, but I think on hindsight, I think the Prime Minister was right in sort of restraining us from going gung-ho on that stage, because it established our moral and ethical superiority. We said it was retribution. We have opened a new chapter on deterrence, how terrorism is linked to functioning between 2 nation states. Whereas I think the issue that we have to actually take, the only negative that came out is Pakistan played a great narrative war. I think we have to learn how to make sure that our narratives become in consonance with the kind of actions that you do on ground. But at the last line that I would like to say, I think US bumbled into this operation, and I think the actions that they did by picking up Maduro and thinking that this will carry on, and I mean, if you knock a few billion infrastructure issues related to that, we will have Iran.
I think if you recall, General Sudhakar ji had made the point that the Americans are, are in for a long time on this. They're going to make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah,
he had said this.
The longer it goes on, and I think maybe now that kind of a memorandum that is floating around as the peace plan, they need to sort of take it on and sort of cut a bit of a face saving as far as they're concerned.
Oh yes, I've really fallen short of time. Sorry, Sudhakar ji, and sorry, Dr. Bahal, that I couldn't come to you, but I recall that conversation with Sudhakar ji had very clearly said, "ये तो बहुत मुश्किल होगा. Americans are here for a long haul और फंस गए हैं. It's not going to be a short war." Thank you all of you for joining me on this debate, because I believe from the bottom of my heart that what India did, Operation Sindoor, in terms of planning and execution, though smaller in nature, is far superior in thought than what Americans are doing, what they call Operation Epic Fury. So this is all I had on Point tonight. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you and good night.
मम्मी से नो अंडा इन समर।
क्यों? तू समर में खेलता नहीं क्या? समर में एनर्जी नहीं लगती क्या? ज्यादा लगती है।